We start off in the classroom. Two boys are engaged in a playful hand-wrestling match with joyful and confident expressions, while a girl watches them amusedly. Inori displayed a worried expression as he contemplated his dilemma, confronting the uncertainty that weighed heavily on him. Just then a magic circle engulfs the entire classroom. Inori crouched down, looking confused and alarmed as he wondered what had just happened. Startled, Inori knelt on the ground. Realizing the classroom had vanished, Inori looked shocked as he faced an unsettling truth. Feeling alarmed and confused, students looked around at their unfamiliar surroundings, with them urgently questioning what was happening. Group of characters appeared bewildered and confused in an unfamiliar environment, with one loudly questioning what this place was. Just then the goddess floated gracefully, radiating a calm and divine presence as she offered reassurance, encouraging everyone to be at ease. She confidently announced that she was the goddess, revealing her divine identity amidst the majestic atmosphere. She then explained that they were being called by another world. The goddess, her flowing hair symbolizing her resolve, delivered an inspiring message that emphasized the hero's destined role to vanquish the demon lord. Looking shocked and exclaiming the thought OD being heroes. The goddess stated their soul will be teleported to the kingdom of Hygen. Inori, standing alone with a worried expression, was visibly anxious as he recognized a situation that reminded him of the stories he had read. The goddess, radiating a bright aura and expressing joy, announced that she would grant everyone a gift before they parted ways. Now, she was bestowing each of them with a special ability suited to their destinies, urging them to resist the temptation of power and walk the path of righteousness. Exhausted but relieved after completing the summoning ritual with the artifact, she announced that she had summoned the heroes, drawing the king's curious attention. The king, standing proudly with a regal posture, greeted the heroes warmly and expressed his utmost gratitude for their arrival. He declared himself as Risen Hygen, the sovereign of the kingdom of Hygen, asserting his authority with a commanding presence. The king, with a determined and commanding presence, knelt down begging the heroes to defeat the demon king. As one otaku urged the king to rise. Looking anxious and hopeful, he asked if there was any way for them to return to their world. The saintess introduced herself confidently as Igia, and assured them that there was indeed a way to return to their world. He explained that within a month, the full moon would rise, illuminating the night sky with a mystical glow and allowing them to travel back to their land. The saintess, speaking with calm authority, announced that those who wished to avoid the war were free to remain inside the palace and leave when night fell. One girl posed a contemplative question about whether a month would have passed in their world if they decided to return. The saintess reassured them that the summoning would not affect the passage of time in their world, comforting them with her calm and authoritative tone. Inori, with a skeptical expression and doubt in his voice, questioned whether the offer sounded too good to be true, wondering if there was a hidden catch. The saintess, with an encouraging tone, asked the group if anyone wished to return to their world on the next full moon, assuring them that they would be free to choose without any obstacles. Desperately, the saintess pleaded with the students, imploring for assistance to save their realm from the Dark Lord. Otaku, appearing nervous, hesitated and requested more time to consider the sudden situation, while the people listened intently. King, dressed in his regal attire and speaking with confidence, announced that the group would have a month to decide whether to return home or forge a hero's pact, while inviting them to enjoy the feast celebrating their arrival. Suddenly Inori was puzzled as he stood over the glowing magic circle beneath his foot, questioning whether this was the same magic circle from his classroom. He wondered aloud if they were being transported to the ballroom by magic, expressing his wish that such magic existed back on Earth. Just then the otaku called out to our boy, wondering why he was the only one glowing. Suddenly everyone crowded around Inori as they watched in awe. Suddenly he stood alone beneath the vast, starry sky, contemplating his past and quietly questioning whether he was experiencing déjà vu. Inori looked up as a radiant goddess, addressing him with a majestic invitation, welcomed the heroes to the realm known as the World's Rift, the pathway of souls. The goddess confidently declared her identity with a mysterious tone, addressing Inori with authority, which left her both curious and surprised. As Inori greeted the goddess again, Inori, standing below the hovering goddess who responded calmly to his question, expressed her curiosity about his sudden appearance. The goddess appeared surprised and confused, asking herself how such a situation could have happened. Inori wondered aloud whether he would be summoned elsewhere, to which she responded calmly and mysteriously that it was probably the case. The goddess, confident and pleased, extended her hand to present a gift to Inori, who looked curious yet apprehensive as he prepared to accept it, knowing that despite his uncertainty, she insisted that he must receive it because it was the rule. The goddess, appearing calm yet distant, departed while the main character sat below surrounded by glowing symbols, feeling confused and anxious as he contemplated the uncertain situation. As our boy is summoned a second time, this time into a BDSM room. A crazy doctor called out that the summoning was complete. He, with a sinister smile, proposed that they name the project Subject 12. Scientist, excitedly gesturing, announced that he had a strong feeling the experimental subject possessed an attack-type demon eye, revealing a startling discovery. Inori looked uneasy and questioned whether the other person had just called him a subject, feeling a strong sense of alarm and suspicion about the encounter. The scientist and his eager assistant prepared to begin the experiment, with the scientist stating that they would proceed slowly and carefully. Inori, nervous yet determined, reacts with surprise as the man encourages him to reveal what his demon eye can do, suggesting an upcoming reveal of a hidden power. The scientist explained that others summoned from another world receive a demon eye when crossing over to their lands. Revealed that their task was to prove it was not merely a myth, his smug grin hinting at the mischievous plan he had devised. Realizing his power, Inori reflected that the demon eye was the gift he had received when summoned to this world. The scientist invoked hypnosis by using a hypnotic gesture, commanding that the other character go to sleep and remain still, ensuring they would be controlled. The man, looking panicked, declared that the hypnosis was not working, his distress evident as he sweat in frustration. Just then, his assistant called out that something was wrong with our boy. The guy revealed that his right eye was the demon eye of vision, glowing intensely with a demonic pattern that signaled the unleashing of his hidden power. And at his left eye was the demon eye of magic circles, showcasing his hidden power through a mysterious and ominous gaze. Both overjoyed and eager, expressed their excitement about discovering not just one, but two potent demon eyes, revealing that they had truly found their gold mine. Inori, chained and panicked, was desperately contemplating using his demon eyes to escape, driven by a sense of urgency and determination. Startled by the sudden appearance of a magical circle, he reacted with shock, exclaiming in surprise at the unexpected event. Noticing this as well, the two evil men looked on in shock. We then find our boy back at square one. Something tell me this won't be the last one. The goddess speechless at the whole situation and could only stare in disbelief. She was taken aback by the appearance of our boy, uncertain if his return meant he liked her or if it was just a coincidence. Inori, expressing confusion and frustration, asked whether the other person truly had no idea what was causing the situation. Goddess confidently explained that she was the first to experience this phenomenon and assured that she would investigate and inform him if they returned. Inori, surprised by the goddess's calm yet enigmatic communication, realized there was a twist in her manner of speaking, noting that the goddess had almost said, "When I return." A high-angle view reveals a building with a glowing window, signaling the transition to a new realm in a mysterious new world. Inori enthusiastically recounted his encounter with a noble girl and an elf. The elf praised Lady Lyde for her exceptional summoning skills, marveling that she had summoned a humanoid monster on her very first attempt, which she declared was an unmatched talent. Just as our boy was about to go in as to who they were calling a monster. With a clearly fake smile he exclaimed that he was back, like a husband coming back home to his wife after a long day of work. Inori asked the goddess if she knew why he was being summoned to different places. She responded that she had a vague idea but would be brief since time was limited. The goddess lamented that the basis of all the summonings is because of one strong soul, which is required to cross over into another world. The goddess explained that Inori possessed an extraordinarily strong soul, making him a very rare case. Inori questioned how he could be special when he considered himself just an ordinary high schooler, despite the goddess's explanation of his extraordinary soul. The goddess extended her hand confidently and explained that the strength of a soul is not determined by one's disposition but by the strength of one's ego. Just then we cut to a beautiful girl holding a glowing orb and speaking with surprise, revealed that she recognized Inori's ability as a skill known as Skill Thief. Inori, now empowered and focused, extended his hand glowing with a magical light as he declared that on the fourth summon, he had received yet another gift. Holding a glowing blue orb with excited determination, Inori proclaimed that he had tried to forge the hero's pact to bind his soul to that world. Alas, the summoning magic circle activated once again as his foot stepped onto it. We transition to a robed figure, who appeared to cast a spell over an open book and candles, as Inori revealing that the fifth one was a summoning through black magic. Inori, appearing pensive and surrounded by swirling magical energy within a mystical circle, acknowledged that he had received a gift of significant nature. With the sixth summon, "Come on guys, just give our boy a break." In an ominous atmosphere, Beast proclaimed that the Dark Majesty had risen once again, declaring that he had become a demon lord amidst his triumphant and determined demeanor. The goddess was astonished as she expressed her surprise at Inori's newfound power, recognizing that he had become absurdly powerful. Inori reacted with surprise, raising his hand as if in disbelief, and he simply stated that it sure looked like it. Inori, sitting on the ground and gazing up at the goddess, as she delivered a cryptic message, suggesting that the next encounter might be their last. The goddess explained that she wanted to combine Inori's abilities before he went and advised him to check his status once he was summoned. Opening his eyes, Inori reflected with a confident smirk, embracing his role and quietly affirming that he was a hero once again. Inori, curious and observant, questioned aloud who they might be. We are introduced to Ryudo stood with a worried expression, sweat on his brow as he observed the tense situation unfolding before him. Maki, concerned and urgent, called out to Aoi and Ryudo, desperately trying to get their attention amidst the rising tension. And last but not least the beautiful Aoi, who is 16, so chill guys. King, worried and authoritative, expressed his concern about the lore that heroes should be summoned in threes, revealing a troubling tradition. Inori, dramatically exclaimed that he was summoned as a fourth wheel, revealing his feelings of discontent. The king looked shocked and distressed as he pointed and questioned whether a certain revelation meant what he feared, his alarm evident in his tense expression. He questioned whether Inori who stood apart, pondering his uncertain status and the possibility that he was just a regular person summoned alongside the heroes. The king, displaying a shocked expression and contemplating an unexpected event, exclaimed that such a thing had never happened before. Suddenly a girl, with a commanding presence and determined expression, called out to the heroes, addressing them with authority. The first princess confidently announced her identity, claiming she was the one who summoned the heroes and expressing gratitude for her role. Inori smirked with amused sarcasm as he made a witty remark about the typical fantasy trope of a pompous princess, mocking the scene with his cleverness. The confident girl stood before the throne, boldly declaring that she would be the first to greet the kingdom of the rising sun, her enthusiasm filling the grand hall. She explained that the world consisted of humans, demi-humans, and demons, emphasizing that humans have long been fighting against the demons. They are shown a fierce demon carrying a terrified young man amid dark, ominous energy, illustrating how the demon lord has recently established a nation of demons and invaded human realms. The scene shifts to a resolute display of unity as the human empire of Makard, an ally in their struggle, requested aid from other countries. The girl confidently declared that she was the only person capable of summoning them because she was of royal lineage, asserting her authority with a smug gesture. Princess confidently outlined her strategy to create an army of summoned heroes who would undergo training in their respective nations. The student, speaking with hopeful curiosity, asked the figure of authority if there was any way for them to return to their world. The girl appearing shocked about this common question, shut all their hopes and dreams down, exclaiming that they were stuck there for life. She, with an assertive posture and a sarcastic tone, told them that they should be grateful rather than questioning her, emphasizing that not everyone has the opportunity to become a hero. The king, addressing the cloaked figure with determination, declared that if there were no further objections, they would proceed with the next step. Suddenly a purple hooded figure is seen carrying an appraisal item. As the male student touched the stone, he was blessed with the skill limit breaker. Aoi Isegai, eager and determined, demonstrated her magical skill barrier conjuration. Tamaki, excited and determined, reached out to accept the powerful blessing of mana affinity. Nori, eager and inquisitive as glowing particles swirled around him while reaching forward, wondered aloud about the potential of his blessing, which was detection. After that, they were required to undergo both physical and magical aptitude tests. As night fell, our boy was invited to Ryudo's room along with others to discuss the next strategic move. Inori sat contemplatively, reflecting on the fact that their room was definitely bigger than his. Just then, Tamaki challenged our boy by declaring that they were heroes and that he had no place there, while others looked on with concern and worry. Crossing his arms with determination, Ryudo asserted that Inori should stay because his detection might prove useful later. Concerned and thoughtful, Tamaki asked if they should stay there, while others listened intently. Inori, confident and assertive, shushed the group while boldly declaring that everyone should stay as he held a book out. Just then, he warned the others that they were being watched and advised them to speak carefully to avoid arousing suspicion. As he flexed his detection ability, Inori, confidently explaining his ability to detect living beings through walls. Inori, with his eyes closed and displaying concern, sensed that someone was eavesdropping behind the door. He subtly requested Aoi to create a soundproof barrier, aware of the need for discretion. Conjuring up the sound barrier, he urged everyone to hurry, explaining that although the channeling was working, she couldn't hold the energy for long because she was still new to this. Looking thoughtful and inquisitive, they questioned why they were being spied on, while Tamaki considered the implications with a pensive expression. Ryudo warned that the blessings of heroes could pose a serious threat to the kingdom and the world if they fell into the wrong hands. For being cut off, as our boy stated, he thinks that the kingdom is desperate. Inori, expressing his concern about the kingdom's financial health despite his uncertainty, revealed that there were many signs indicating the kingdom was not doing well economically. Inori, speaking confidently about a potential escape plan, suggested that depending on what happens, they might have to leave the kingdom and could use his detection to avoid guards and escape. Just before our girl leaned into our boy attempting to riz him, Inori was startled and confused as she pointed out that his left eye looked strange and asked why it was yellow. Ryudo, speaking thoughtfully with compassion, explained that Inori was experiencing his phase a bit later than others and suggested he deserved patience and understanding. Inori, appearing surprised, questioned whether he was perceived as an emo kid wearing color contacts, reflecting his deep insecurity and confusion about how others saw him. Seconds later Inori focused intently, attempting to visualize the holographic status window displaying his stats, believing that it should appear whenever he pictured it in his mind. He examined the display of his character stats thoughtfully, noting that while the numbers appeared quite high, he couldn't determine their quality without knowing the average. Putting that aside, he decided to check on his skills. There then shown Inori's skills, dark magic skills involving the demon eye of sight, black magic, and a skill thief. And of course detection, as he thought about gaining numerous abilities through previous summonings. Inori, smirking as he revealed his fangs, acknowledged that the summoning had indeed transformed him into a demonic vampire or perhaps a humanoid monster. Inori, contemplating the new revelation about the sun god scorn reducing night creatures' abilities during the day, realized that this explained why he had failed his afternoon test. Reaching over to grab a candle, wanting to test a skill that uses mana to create weapons from any material. Inori explained that the ability he was showcasing was called Craft Weapon, revealing his determination as he created a weapon with remarkable energy. Inori, holding a gleaming knife and looking astonished, reacted with surprise upon sensing the knife's immense detail. Inori confidently demonstrated his power by revealing his red demon eye of vision on the right, which glowed intensely and symbolized a physical manifestation of his special abilities. He noted that his demonic eye was specialized in everything sight-related. Inori explained that his yellow demon eye of magic circles was on the left but admitted he had no idea how it functioned. Inori was contemplating whether he should return to studying the world's magic now that he had learned about his own magical circles. Inori reflected on his lack of knowledge about many skills while observing a skill list, feeling contemplative about his abilities. Inori smirked confidently as he read the glowing text panel, contemplating that the description of the drain blood spell sounded simple and straightforward. He explained that if someone fatally drained a victim, they could turn the victim into a ghoul, and if the victim was a virgin, the user might feed them vampiric blood to transform them into a vampire servant or simply let them become a ghoul. Inori, displaying his bloodied hand with a smug expression, revealed his shocking dark ability to turn a dead person into a familiar using his blood. Inori, appearing contemplative with a slight smile that reflected his dark realization, acknowledged his frightening potential by recognizing that draining a victim's blood could grant him their memories and skills. As he laid back, he thought how strong he became at night. Inori thought about how strong he had become at night and then expressed that it felt good to be powerful, although he knew he needed to get used to his new body and the world around him. We cut to a new day as Igiana declared her title as the Knight Commander of the Kingdom of the Rising Sun, asserting her authority in front of everyone present. The confident and authoritative female instructor stood firmly with her arms crossed, as she explained to be their physical combat instructor. Inori, lost in thought and contemplating the unpredictable nature of this other world, wondered whether the woman he questioned was truly benevolent or simply the best the kingdom could afford. The woman addressed the group, implying that many of them possessed such exceptional abilities that they might not even need the usual strength training. She then asserted that Ryuto, Tamaki, and Aoi could choose their specialization after learning the basics. Before turning her attention to our boy and calling out his name, "Are we about to undergo a special kind of training, I wonder?" Hope I was wrong. She states that Inori will undergo intense physical training. Let's pray for our boy. A cheerful goddess makes a playful grand entrance by greeting everyone enthusiastically, her bright smile and lively wave captivating the surrounding characters. After this woman catches the attention of our boy, he wonders who she is. Noticing that the woman was accompanied by a maid, Inori deduced that she must also be a member of the royal family, given the maid's presence. The woman, dressed in formal attire and visibly surprised, greeted the royals with respectful astonishment, saying that she did not expect their visit. Female character, smiling reassuringly, told the woman to be at ease, explaining that they were simply there to observe the hero's training. As our snobby princess, declared that she had allocated her precious time to witness their first steps in person and considered them honored. It was a formal encounter where the mysterious woman, elegant and authoritative, greeted Inori with a courteous introduction, expressing that it was a pleasure to meet him. The second princess confidently introduced herself as the princess of the Kingdom of the Rising Sun with a proud smile. The female character, with a playful smile, then introduced herself to the main protagonist as his daytime tutor. To somewhere as one announced that Inori would receive Commander Esha's training in the morning, while she instructed Inori that he would attend her class in the afternoon. Feeling out of place, Inori acknowledged that he was definitely the black sheep of the group. Our boy explained that the other three were taking the first princess's class in a separate room. The girl looked down sternly at Inori, asserting her authority by declaring that she had no time to waste on someone she did not regard as a hero and demanding he know his place. The woman announced that she would begin the lesson, while Inori listened attentively with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Inori, appearing nervous yet determined, raised his hand and asked if he could first pose a question to her. The curious Inori asked the cheerful second princess if her being the second princess meant she was younger than the first. The girl, with a smug and confident expression, corrected the misconception by asserting that the situation was actually the other way around. He explained that her younger sister was made the crown princess due to complicated reasons. Inori was lost in thought, reflecting on political motivations he presumed were involved in the situation. He concluded that succession affairs were a complex matter and decided it was best to focus on his own concerns for now. Second princess explained that the kingdom of the rising sun was founded by a sorceress who had defeated the first demon lord. The society's reverent reverence for the witch religion, which centers women, is symbolized by the prominent statue representing the founding sorceress known as the witch. He affirmed that for generations, queens had been crowned as the monarch, while he proclaimed that their husbands, the kings, had ruled the kingdom as regents. Although kings were rulers, it was clear that queens could still strip kings of their authority through divorce. Second princess confidently instructed our boy on the fundamentals of the kingdom's history and magic. As the day comes to an end, Inori, sitting cross-legged on the bed and reading a book on magic, reflected on the princess's words that she would teach him the theories of magic the next day and the practical aspects the day after. He thought how she had lent him this book. Despite feeling confident about his preparations, he reflected that he now had everything needed to conduct new experiments. As his yellow eye began flashing like Itachi casting a genjutsu, instructed that the magic circle should be observed, stored in the eye, and activated at will. Feeling uncertain about the effectiveness of his attempt, he wondered if the saving process had even worked since he did not feel anything. As he tried other magic circles, none of them worked as he closed the book with failure. Just then a thought crossed his mind. He was contemplating the potential of his other eye, pondering whether he should activate its power. As he drew a magic circle on some paper, he commented on how easy it was to picture the circle and draw it. He focused intently as he thought about the hypnosis spell which had been cast on him from his previous world, which he should not know how to draw or activate. Inori revealed that thanks to his demon eye of vision and its memorize image skill, he could now utilize a powerful ability by interpreting the complex symbol displayed on the scroll. As he stated how he could picture it clearly, Inori's eye glimmered with a radiant golden light as he focused intently, signaling that he was unlocking his hidden potential and awakening his powers. Inori, looking surprised and charged with energy, questioned whether the transformation had succeeded. Inori, determined and focused, prepared to test his skill as he rung a bell he was holding. We then see a maid, displaying respectful deference, addressed Inori with a formal tone, offering her assistance and asking how she could help. Inori, sitting casually on the bed and looking hopeful, asked her if she could do him a favor, prompting her to react with curiosity and attentiveness. As he used his genjutsu, hypnosis, a magic engulfed her. As we see her eyes and sense of reasoning slowly fading away, Inori, eager and anxious, seeking confirmation by suggesting he ask her something random to check if their plan had succeeded. Our boy, not holding back, asked her about the color of the underwear she was wearing that day, as she specifically mentioning it was black. As he used his X-ray, which is wild, he knew she was telling the truth. Inori, focused and analytical, explained that the advanced hypnosis magic operates in conjunction with the demon eye of magic circles. Realizing his power, Inori contemplated that this magic came from the world where he had received these eyes. Inori, deep in thought, wondered whether the demon eye's power was limited to storing magic he had seen in that world. Inori, appearing thoughtful and inquisitive, asked whether he could only use advanced hypnosis magic. Inori, appearing doubtful and contemplative as he leaned over the table with a feather in hand, firmly declared that he could not assume that yet. Recalling his past summons while surrounded by magic circles, Inori reflected that he had received a gift of that nature and believed that the time had finally come, as the dark majesty was rising once again. Inori, focused and determined while using a powerful ability, prepared to save the mystical symbol in front of his eye, indicating that he was about to record an important vision. Just then he activated a glowing circle. As we transition to outside where something is being summoned, Inori, enveloped in golden light, celebrated his triumph, as he had successfully teleported to a forest near the palace exactly as he had planned. Inori, focused and confident, deduced that he could continue his teleportation strategy by using the red eye's far sight to locate a destination and then employing the spell teleport to the sighted location stored in the yellow eye. Realizing his newfound freedom, Inori stood under the moonlit sky and thought that he could now leave the palace at any time he wanted. Inori, standing near a crumbling wall and contemplating his next move, thought that he should experiment with his skills at night since that was when he could use them all. Inori, determined and focused, reached towards the swirling black magic circle on the wall, his intense expression revealing that he was casting a spell amidst an ominous atmosphere. Inori, confident and commanding, focused intently as he conjured dark magic and manipulated the magical stones with precision. Inori demonstrated his dark magic ability by asserting that he could use black magic to take control of inanimate materials, adding to the mysterious atmosphere of the scene. Inori, standing amidst dark, crystalline formations and emanating a purple aura, issued an intimidating command for his shadows to move freely and store their targets within his shadow. Inori demonstrated his mastery over a floating, glowing crystal, explaining that objects under his control cannot affect those outside his influence. Inori, confidently demonstrating his power, levitated a rock and explained that releasing control is an easy solution, emphasizing his mastery over the object. Inori, focused and determined, executed his shadow shift technique as his shoe stepped into darkness, swirling with magic around him. As our boy disappeared into the abyss. Emerging from a swirling portal in a tree, he was focused on moving freely through unfamiliar terrains. Inori, holding the glowing stone and looking contemplative, announced that he was about to test whether his learned skill would work as he expected. Inori, determined and focused, was depicted in a dynamic moment of weapon crafting, with bright energy surrounding him as he concentrated on creating a powerful weapon. Inori, standing in the forest with a glowing sword in hand, felt ready for the impending battle, confident that this weapon would be his key to victory. As he closed his eyes and focused, he cut back to his training earlier. Inori, determined and resolute, used his demon eye of vision to capture the Knight Commander's every move, his intense focus evident as he prepared to strike. Inori, determined and focused, prepared to unleash a powerful attack while channeling his energy, believing that he just needed to copy them. With a ferocious slash, swinging with all his might and mimicking the moves. Inori, demonstrating his skill with a blade, declared that he had practiced these moves as much as possible. Inori, still panting and gripping his sword, was struck by a sudden, startling sensation that made him react with surprise, feeling that something had just clicked within the moment. Just then a bright glowing green window popped up, announcing that he had just obtained swordsmanship level 1. Inori, standing confidently in the forest and looking upward with determination, reflected that although it takes time to master new skills, his efforts would pay off as he prepared to level up again. Just then a sudden movement in the bush caught his attention. As a gigantic monster stood still eating something. Inori, feeling fearful and apprehensive, questioned whether the unknown creature was a bird or a monster, clearly assessing it as a potential threat. He exclaimed in surprise that the creature was incredibly powerful, as the menacing bird Kecho devoured its prey with ominous glowing intensity. Inori, appearing curious and engaged, shared that he had heard feathers were a special trait of the kingdom and recalled someone mentioning that the mattress he was using was made of them. Inori, nervously peeking from behind a bush and contemplating his next steps, wondered aloud how the people of this kingdom managed to hunt such strong monsters and considered starting with weaker fiends. Two ominous creatures with glowing red eyes lurked in the foreground as he revealed that he had identified other fiends that appeared less threatening. He questioned whether all the fiends in the forest were high-leveled, considering that most of their stats were between 500 and 600, with some even higher than his own. Inori sat pensively on a rock, contemplating his own weakness and questioning whether he had been too fragile to face the challenges ahead. Considering his cautious evaluation, Inori decided that although he might be able to defeat them in a one-on-one fight given his current stats, he could not guarantee victory if they decided to gang up, so he concluded that they should retreat for now. The scene set the grand palace towering beneath a mysterious night sky, its activity hinted at by distant sounds suggesting that something significant was about to unfold inside. Her purposeful approach intensified the tense mood as she entered the scene with unwavering resolve. Gianna, appearing pensive and determined, continues her exploration of the mysterious corridor, holding her lantern firmly as she searches for something in the shadows. Gianna, speaking with a serious tone and concern in her voice, warned that the palace might be a safe place but stressed the need for vigilance. Gianna, holding her lantern with a worried expression, advised that the second princess should avoid walking the palace corridors at night without guards, emphasizing the lurking dangers in the shadows. The second princess, maintaining her calm demeanor, subtly requested a private conversation with the Knight Commander, asking if she could have a word with him. She questioned Gianna about why artifacts were not being utilized in Inori's training, revealing her concern and curiosity about the effectiveness of the methods. Gianna, emphasizing her authoritative instructions, clarified that Tamaki, Aoi, and Ryuto were limited to training weapons, while Inori, visibly strained, was still in the midst of his intense training. She reasoned that they should introduce the artifacts now since they would ultimately need to use them sooner or later. Gianna listened thoughtfully as the goddess emphasized that artifacts could enhance their abilities but warned that reliance on them without proper strength could lead to dangerous dependency. She emphasized that to prevent such dangers, it would be best to keep a close watch on them and ensure thorough preparation. Hearing this, the princess lowered her head with a silent aura around her. Gianna, feeling a sense of relief and newfound understanding, recognized that she had been impulsive in questioning the ways of humanity's mightiest. Igiana, with her eyes closed and a serious expression, reflected on how her smile had lost the radiance it once held, conveying a deep sense of nostalgia and melancholy. The second princess, standing with her back turned and looking surprised, suddenly realized she had not noticed that about her smile. Igiana, with a curious and engaging demeanor, asked Inori what he thought about the first princess, her question reflecting her intrigue and desire to understand his opinion. The second princess, displaying confidence and pride, described the young woman in the portrait as talented, dedicated, intelligent, and ambitious, affirming her worthiness of the crown. Igiana's challenge to the second princess's beliefs intensified the tense confrontation, causing the princess to respond with surprise and defensiveness as she struggled to reconcile the accusation. Igiana, displaying her usual alertness and concern, warned that despite the palace being a safe place, it was still vulnerable to espionage and unseen dangers. She warned Igiana to be cautious, emphasizing that the kingdom was unforgiving to those who slandered the crown princess, and Igiana responded with respectful attentiveness. Despite her calm yet firm reassurance that there was no need for concern, she sensed underlying worry and care behind the words. 2 weeks had passed since the summon, and Inori observed the three heroes, including Igiana and Masayoshi, making impressive progress in their physical combat training, feeling a sense of pride at their dedication. Inori, feeling determined and confident, reflected on his progress and revealed that he had only started his combat training 3 days earlier. He continued practicing his weapon throwing with a playful attitude, convinced that the training would keep emphasizing skill improvement. Inori remained hidden in the bush, focused on devising strategies to conceal himself, move stealthily, and disarm traps, as the vigilant guard kept watch nearby with unwavering alertness. Feeling confident with the dagger in hand, Inori contemplated that they must be trying to turn him into a scout, which was fitting since detection was a skill best suited for one, as he stood lost in thought with his sword at his side. Inori hesitated as he realized that this trend meant something significant, standing amidst crackling energy in the forest clearing at night while channeling his newfound power with intense focus. Inori, driven by his determination, kept practicing with his glowing knife while contemplating that he needed to improve his unique skills in his free time. Inori continued to concentrate, manipulating objects with glowing energy and silently reaffirming that he only needed a bit more practice to master his remote control powers. Inori gazed sorrowfully at the sword embedded in the tree, expressing his regret that he could neither utilize these skills nor learn new ones. Inori gazed at the moon with a worried expression, contemplating whether the curse he believed was a terrible punishment from the sun god would vanish once he managed to level up sufficiently. Inori emerged from the shadowy void, determined to focus solely on upgrading his skills through shadow shifting and leveling up, fully committed to his self-improvement. He then cut to a monster casually enjoying a midnight snack, like the rest of us do. Before we see our boy dashing like the Flash, popping out of his void with a sinister smile on his face. The fierce beast continued its furious roar in the darkness, intensifying the already ominous atmosphere that surrounded it. Sinking back into his portal of darkness with a cold calculated smile on his face. Inori, resolute and confident, prepared to employ his upgraded dark mana wires from his hand, ready to unleash their full power. He remains standing defiantly before the looming dark entity, embodying his fearless resolve as he confronts the ominous presence of the umbral web. Inori, determined and fierce, confronted the monstrous presence with a defiant expression, challenging it directly by demanding that it look him in the eye. Inori, with a focused and intense expression, activated his magical ability using the demon eye of magic circles to cast a hypnosis spell. As he smiled achieving his goal, he exclaimed excellent. Inori, determined and fearless, reached out toward the hypnotic creature with a glowing yellow eye as the umbral web captured and the eye's gaze hypnotized. Inori, frustrated by his inability to fully command the living entity through black magic, faced the masked figure with unwavering determination. Inori, standing confidently and gesturing towards the ghostly creature surrounded by magical energy, declared that he could control it and do whatever he wanted once it was dead. Inori, standing confidently above the swirling, murky water and a shadowy figure, announced that he could also store the creature in his shadow, showcasing his increasing strength and resolve. Inori, radiating pride and confidence, announced that the experiment had been successful, marking a triumphant moment in his journey. Feeling relieved and content, he reflected that he could now eat freely without concerns about other fiends. Inori, feeling determined and ambitious, saw this as a perfect opportunity to elevate his status by draining a creature's life using drain blood, as he loomed over the fallen figure against the ominous sunset. Inori materialized from the swirling darkness, determinedly stepping out of his shadow realm. Inori continues to observe the sleeping green creature from behind the tree trunks, his curiosity deepening as he remains intrigued by its mysterious presence. Inori, with a disgusted expression, contemplated the food and remarked that although it didn't look appetizing, beggars couldn't be choosers. Inori lay face down on the bed, asleep with a weary expression, reflecting that this had been his nightly routine recently. A cheerful maid greeted Inori in a bright room, warmly saying that it was time for him to wake up. Inori cheerfully greeted the maid while casually explaining that he had set a rule for hypnosis, which was not to hypnotize Nala unless it was necessary or he was about to leave. However, he soon understood that he had been secretly casting the hypnosis spell frequently over the past 2 weeks to learn much about the kingdom of the rising sun. We cut to the confident second princess, standing elegantly as our boy revealed that the current queen had long been unable to bear a child, hinting at deeper secrets within the court. He states the queen, worried about the kingdom's future, was contemplating the serious problem that her passing the crown to a princess she had given birth to was a crucial matter. Inori emphasized that the frequent early deaths of royal family members had resulted in a complete lack of heirs to succeed the throne. The queen, worried about the potential end of the royal bloodline, continued to hold her crying baby as she reflected on the kingdom's decision to accept a noblewoman, a collateral relative, as the king's concubine. Inori, revealing that she had conceived a child, which filled the proud woman with happiness as they shared a tender moment. The second princess, her face radiating excitement and pride, enthusiastically announced that the child was Aliyah. Celebrating her 7th birthday with a joyful heart, the princess had grown into a diligent ruler beloved by her people, who supported and admired her. The scene shifts to a tender moment where the queen, radiating joy and nurturing love, gently cradles her newborn daughter in a peaceful setting. Feeling affectionate, the queen gently named her baby Amanda, as the close-up revealed the infant peacefully nestled in a soft blanket. Amanda was concentrating intensely on the glowing orb she held, her expression reflecting the weight of her task as she channeled powerful magic. Celebrating her magical heritage with joy, Princess Amanda was greatly loved by the queen, who was overjoyed that her daughter had inherited her magical power. Feeling withdrawn and pensive, the second princess was reflecting on her situation, aware that she had been withdrawn from the royal succession lessons. On a nostalgic day, the queen proudly crowned the young princess with a tiara, marking a significant and joyful milestone in her life. Our boy revealed that she had become the first princess, emphasizing a dark and ominous transformation in a moment of profound significance. Reflecting on the profound loss of her name, Inori contemplated that Aliyah's name had indeed lost its meaning, while a fake smile appeared on her face. States the second princess, lonely and sorrowful, reflected on her tragic fate, recalling that she was forgotten by her people, abandoned by her mother, and unwanted by bachelors. Inori rested his head on the table, as he reflected on Aliyah's tragic solitude and the pain of living as if she were a doll. Inori, resting his head on his arms and appearing deeply contemplative, reflected that she was just like him and that no one expected anything from her. Second princess continued to worry and gently urged Inori to wake, but he remained unresponsive and lay silent, emphasizing his vulnerable state. Despite her playful tone, she persisted in lecturing him about the importance of knowledge for survival, noting that sleeping in class would not help him absorb it, and he wondered what had gotten into her today since she had never nagged him before. Then, with a serious expression, she questioned Inori about his covert tactics in physical combat training, reflecting her curiosity and concern. She reassured Inori that although he might lack talent in magic, he was excelling in the lessons he was currently receiving, encouraging him with a supportive smile. Reflecting on his ongoing struggles with magic, Inori remained confused about why he couldn't seem to use most of the magic in this world. Inori, confidently claiming that even commoners could use basic magic in this place. Second princess, dismissed any expectation that Knight Commander Esh would have spared her time, emphasizing her busy schedule. Inori enthusiastically raised his arm while he listened, and he speculated that she might have overlooked his potential or perhaps saw him as a useful subordinate for the heroes. The second princess, confident and determined, told our boy that she believed he could become stronger and urged him to dedicate more effort to his training. Inori maintained his pensive gaze as she drew nearer with an intense expression, silently conveying their mutual understanding amid the tense moment. Confident and determined, she commanded Inori to follow her, asserting her authority in a tense and assertive moment. Following her, Inori moved quietly behind her as they descended the stone staircase, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the tense silence. The second princess, determined and hopeful, stood before a grand, glowing doorway, reaching out towards it with a sense of amazement. She, demonstrating her confidence and focus, began the training by utilizing her magical energy and stating that they would proceed with Inori's training in this room. She challenged the Inori's reputation by asserting that although he was considered a hero, people still labeled him a weakling. The girl, with an intense and defiant expression, confronted Inori and demanded whether he was not ashamed. Startled and confused by Inori's surprised reaction, the scene captures his concern as he notices something unusual happening today with her. The second princess, standing with her head slightly lowered and a melancholic expression, has been concealing her true emotions ever since a tragic event, her inner pain masked by a nostalgic facade. Inori was stunned by the realization, his wide-eyed gaze revealing his surprise as he contemplated how she had now changed. She was no longer the quiet and reserved second princess, as she now stood confidently, embodying her newfound power and claiming her true identity with unwavering determination. She, anxious and urgent, warned our boy that if he continued on his current path, he would be exiled from the castle. Inori looked confused and surprised, reacting in disbelief as he questioned the situation what he had heard. The princess delivered a stern and decisive statement, asserting that they have no obligation to raise incompetent losers who refuse to put in effort as she recited what the queen said. Inori confidently defended his abilities, asserting that detection was a useful skill and insisting he was not incompetent. She challenged her Inori's effort by asserting that, although she agreed with some points, he was not putting in as much effort as others. The princess, appearing imposing and wise, delivered a solemn message, emphasizing that as a bearer of a blessing, one must take their destiny seriously and give their all. Inori, standing confidently in front of the princess, asserted that he was trying, demonstrating his determination to defend his efforts despite her skepticism. Inori, feeling irritated by his perceived shortcomings compared to others, expressed that he was doing his best, even though he was neither as powerful as the three others nor as talented academically as her. Then she calmly explained that the special training room was enchanted with barrier magic, emphasizing its mystical properties. He pressed his hand against the door, heightening the foreboding atmosphere, as she warned that no one would hear any screams or shouts from outside. Inori, looking perplexed while facing a door, wondered aloud how to open it, as the princess silently observed his struggle. Her intense gaze revealed her unwavering determination as she faced our boy. The girl, fiercely determined and filled with resolve, charged forward with unwavering focus. She executed a fierce and focused attack, intensifying the scene's dramatic and intense mood. Inori, who appeared determined yet frightened, continued to struggle under the mounting pressure as the scene grew increasingly tense. She accused him of being in a better position than her yet refusing to elevate themselves, her serious and frustrated expression underscoring the confrontational mood. She warned Inori that if he were expelled, the fiends outside would kill him instantly, emphasizing that he must do whatever it takes to survive even if it meant bringing shame. Inori, feeling solemn and introspective, reflected on the absence of the doll princess, realizing she was no longer present in the room. A tall, dignified woman stood confidently in a regal pose, embodying authority and pride as she presented herself with dignity, asserting her commanding presence in the serious setting. Encouraging self-empowerment with passionate conviction, she proclaimed that anyone could become who they wished if they set their mind to it and took control of their life. Inori smirked confidently, expressing his triumph with a smug look that revealed his self-assured demeanor. Inori, overwhelmed with joy and laughing uncontrollably, continued to revel in the moment, while she looked on with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. Our boy rizzed and complimented the second princess, calling her a fine lady, which caused her to blush and become visibly flustered as she reacted with surprise. Inori smirked confidently as he acknowledged that he had underestimated the princess, expressing his impression of their unexpected strength. The princess, visibly frustrated and assertive, challenged Inori by accusing him of patronizing her, clearly expressing her annoyance and defiance. Inori confidently reassured the girl with a calm smile, stating that he was probably the one with the strongest sense of self-preservation among them. Feeling shocked and contemplative, she reacted with a stunned expression to the revelation that someone was just like her. She delivered a realization that he had been underestimated, prompting Inori to respond with a calm yet pleased expression amidst their tense confrontation. Feeling an inexplicable surge of power and energy, she observed that he was somehow much stronger than before. Inori, still confident despite feeling anxious, acknowledged the honesty and realized he was about to be expelled, prompting him to start thinking of a solution. Inori, who was deeply engrossed in reading a book and contemplating his situation with a pensive expression, thought that he did not want to be cast out because he wished to continue gathering information. Inori, clutching his knife with a distressed yet resolute expression, struggling through adversity at the training grounds of the Rising Sun Kingdom. Inori, determined to prove his true strength and avoid being expelled, expressed his intentions with nervous resolve while sweating profusely. The scene revealed a dark, eerie cave with glowing eyes peering out from the shadows, emphasizing the ominous mood as our boy expressed frustration about being told there would be no dungeon-based training for a while. Deciding to have a serious talk with Knight Commander Esh, Inori, who was catching his breath after an intense moment. Inori, nervously seeking an audience, asked Gianna if he could have a private word with her, hoping to persuade her to convince the queen for him. We cut to Gianna, sitting pensively at her desk and contemplating the difficulty ahead, recognized that the request would be difficult. Inori, feeling frustrated and questioning his worth, asked whether his ability was also considered useless. Inori looked contemplative as Gianna reassured him that she believed his ability was not useless, offering him support and hope. She, confident and persuasive, sat at the table and extended an inviting proposition, stating that she would like him to join their knighthood. Inori, visibly surprised and confused, reacted in shock to the unexpected situation, questioning what was happening. She declared that his skill would become an invaluable asset in future battles and dungeon raids, especially against the Demon Lord. Meanwhile, she dismissed Inori's determination as powerless, asserting that his words could not sway the people or the queen, thereby undermining Inori's confidence. Gianna passionately addressed Inori, emphasizing that he could choose to serve the kingdom as a brave soldier instead of remaining the weakest link among the heroes, urging him to make a decisive and confident choice. She, assertive and commanding, passionately threatened that she would give the kingdom a reason to reconsider exiling him. Inori was contemplating his future when he declared that if he joined the knighthood, he would be bound to the country. Inori, deep in thought and weighing his options, reflected on the seriousness of the offer, considering that it was not an offer he could take lightly. He told Gianna that he really appreciated the offer but needed some time to think it over. She leaned over the table with an empathetic smile, assuring the main character that he could rely on her whenever needed. Inori, depicted with a worried expression while contemplating his uncertain future, wondered if this was after the fact of being exiled. Gianna remained lost in thought as she gazed out the window, contemplating the weight of the decision that lay ahead. She suggested that it might be so, as the flag with its emblem stood boldly against the distant figure. A few days later, the scene shifted to a quiet, pensive moment as a close-up revealed bookshelves filled with various books. Inori, appearing bored and indifferent as he rested his head on the table, casually questioned whether heroes from a neighboring nation were visiting the palace. The second princess, confident and poised as she sipped her tea, enthusiastically declared that they would host a celebration party for them. Inori, feeling frustrated and confused, questioned why no one had informed him about the event until now, as she calmly explained that since he and others were invited, there would be no classes or training tomorrow. The princess, with a chilling smile, made a witty remark suggesting that someone probably didn't feel the need to tell anyone they were sleeping during class, amused by the situation. Shift to the celebration with elation, as the characters cheered and waved green flags in a joyful scene of victory. The scene burst with vibrant colors as a figure led the joyful crowd in waving celebratory flags and banners. Noting the country's financial struggles, Inori quietly reflected on its economic difficulties with a sense of concern. Inori, lying on the bed and looking contemplative with a sense of displeasure, remarked that they were surely going overboard with the celebration. Inori hesitated, contemplating whether to attend the party alone, but he quickly dismissed the idea, recalling that he would likely have to explain his unusual existence to foreign officials. Feeling out of place and anxious about his situation, Inori expressed concern that others might even form an investigation party to look into how he was summoned as a fourth wheel. Feeling irritated, Inori expressed his frustration by saying that such a situation would be extremely annoying. Despite his initial reluctance, Inori decided to proceed with his plan to discreetly observe the party, amused by the idea of eavesdropping despite his usual disapproval. Inori, focused intensely as he revealed his supernatural power, unleashing the demon eye of vision with an expression of pure intensity. The ominous corridor grew darker and more foreboding as swirling red shadows indicated that unseen forces were now unleashing their dark energy. The second princess, appearing joyful and exuberant as she looked enthusiastically, stood confidently alongside the regal and composed crowned first princess. Inori, captivated by the sight, expressed his admiration for the second princess who was confidently showcasing her new dress. Inori observed the second princess's genuine smile and mocked its insincerity, implying it still looked fake. Inori sat on the bed with a playful smile, his stomach growling in a clear sign of his hunger as he examined the food at the party. Inori, reflecting on the surprising revelation that Nala hadn't been lying, was clearly astonished by the unexpected news. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, he explained that Nala, while hypnotized, had revealed her belief that these parties are a primary cause of the kingdom's financial crisis. He stated the queen continued to show off her kingdom's splendor, seemingly disregarding the concerned king's warnings about her arrogance. Inori was visibly surprised, showing a shift in his expression as he exclaimed in astonishment at the revelation. Observing the group standing beside Ryudo, Inori deduced that the figures must be the heroes from the neighboring nation. Noticing the arrival of 3 more individuals, he remarked that he could see they had come in a group. Inori, observing the contemplative and withdrawn demeanor of the other character, mentally noted that he appeared to be someone he could potentially get along with. Inori, gazing thoughtfully while speaking, noted that the third one looked unique, reflecting his curiosity about its distinctiveness. Observing the blonde-haired individual with a furrowed brow, he wondered aloud whether he was Japanese and suggested he should identify him. Inori animatedly gestured while commenting that the man's name sounded very vintage and definitely hero-like. Masayoshi, visibly frustrated and shouting with agitation, as Inori questioned why he was yelling at Ryudo. He was focused intently, observing the character's lips to decipher what he was saying. Just then, he shouted with intensity, demanding that Inori Takafuji be brought to him immediately. The man, determined and bold, passionately issued a fierce challenge to a duel, asserting his resolve to confront his opponent directly. The princess, with her inquisitive and poised demeanor, announced that Sir Inori Takafuji had arrived. Reflecting on the invitation, Inori noted that he was called after the party ended, his expression pensive and contemplative as he processed the recent events. He issued a bold challenge to Inori for a duel, his voice resonating with confidence and defiance. Inori looked puzzled and concerned as he questioned the reason for choosing a duel, reflecting his confusion amid the tense situation. Man passionately declared his unwavering commitment to a higher purpose, asserting that he would prove to the goddess that he was worthy of her love through his fierce determination. Masayoshi, appearing confrontational and angry, demanded answers with intensity, questioning whether Inori truly believed in the existence of the goddess, leaving the tense scene charged with suspicion. The man, standing on a glowing circle in the mysterious white space, revealed that he knew Inori had been called there and had met her in that very place. Goddess appeared with a serene expression, revealing her presence in a moment of solemnity. Inori, appearing surprised and confused, questioned the revelation, seeking clarity amid the tense atmosphere. Feeling embarrassed, he nervously announced that he had proposed to her, leaving him shocked and listening intently. He clenched his fist in resolve and responded with intense determination. Masayoshi, furious and confrontational, issued a challenge to Inori, shouting that if he could defeat him, the goddess would consider marriage, leaving Inori shocked and confused by the intense confrontation. Inori, with a look of realization, understood that she was expecting him to handle her problem. Feeling frustrated and determined, he vowed to make her pay the next time they met. The duo, bewildered and questioning what white space they were referring to. Startled by the mention of the goddess, they both reacted with surprise, curious and taken aback. Inori, still pondering the confusing circumstances of the summoning, questioned whether they had been called through various methods, apprehensive about the difficulty of explaining it later. Inori, appearing contemplative and resolute as he looked down, decided to pretend he was unaware of the truth for the time being, making a strategic choice. Inori, displaying confidence and assertiveness, challenged Masayoshi in the tense atmosphere of the ornate room, and Inori, surprised yet willing, accepted the challenge without hesitation. The man energetically expressed his excitement with an open hand gesture, celebrating their success jubilantly. Inori, standing resolutely with a defiant look, declared that they should now decide the format of the duel, prompting Masayoshi to respond with eager confidence about discussing the terms. Our boy, speaking with tense honesty, admitted that he would be defeated too easily in a one-on-one fight due to his lack of a superhuman body or a combat blessing. Inori, standing boldly and gesturing emphatically, challenged the idea of bullying an underdog who was clearly at a disadvantage, condemning such behavior and expressing that it was shameful. Masayoshi, with a defiant shout, declared that he would prove himself by accepting any challenge thrown at him. He then explained that nearby there was a dungeon used to train knights, emphasizing its strategic importance for their plans. He suggested they play a game to see who could be the first to defeat the boss of the first floor, as the shadowy cave entrance intensified the mysterious atmosphere. Masayoshi smirked confidently while crossing his arms, declaring that he accepted the deal with a triumphant air. Ryuto, showing concern and anxiety, questioned whether it was okay to proceed, acknowledging that while Inori's ability would help him navigate the dungeon easily, it wouldn't be effective against the boss. Inori, confident and strategic, reassured his concerned companion that he had a plan, calming the unease with his calm demeanor. Having announced the decision to duel the next day, Masayoshi confidently turned back with a smug smirk, exuding an air of certainty. We cut to the next day. The queen, seated pensively in her opulent chamber, reflected on her upcoming decision with unwavering resolve. She recognized Inori's presence and acknowledged him, realizing the defeated and weary protagonist was kneeling in submission on the opulent palace floor. The queen, sitting imposingly on her throne and demanding an explanation, accused him of changing the rules of the duel and yet being utterly pulverized. Masayoshi demonstrated his overwhelming swordsman skills by slaughtering the monsters with fierce precision, proving that his force of nature was on par with the Knight Commander Esh. Masayoshi faced the intimidating boss, who loomed threateningly over him in an ominous scene, emphasizing the gravity of the confrontation. Inori explained, claiming that the boss of the first floor had not stood a chance against Masayoshi. Inori, crouched beside a glowing detection grid and looking contemplative, stated that he had used detection himself. Inori, appearing cautious and focused as he peered down a crevice, was strategizing a stealthy approach to sneak past enemies, traps, and the boss. Inori, with a somber expression reflecting on his recent defeat, acknowledged that the duel had objectively ended in his crushing loss. The queen, with an indignant expression, reiterated that she had overlooked his laziness and shortcomings despite his evident stress. She emphasized that despite the Knight Commander's belief in Inori's potential, his failure today had inflicted damage on the kingdom. The queen, with a determined expression, declared that she could never forgive that, embodying his deep resolve. The queen, furious and commanding, pointed aggressively and declared that she was banishing Inori from their kingdom. Inori smirked confidently, displaying his determination as he radiated self-assurance despite the queen's furious and commanding banishment declaration. Our boy said something that shocked the queen, saying he disagreed against his banishment. Inori questioned the queen about the harm he had supposedly brought to the kingdom, seeking understanding of his past actions. She, confidently pointing to our boy, asserted that losing a duel was the obvious consequence of defeat, emphasizing her defiant stance. Realizing his defeat, Inori reflected that it was true he had lost the race. Inori confidently declared that the wager of the duel was worth, exuding a triumphant sense of certainty. The queen, reacting with shock and disbelief, was clearly confronting an unexpected revelation from our boy. Our boy declared that the contest was merely a battle to determine who was worthy of a lady's courtship. Inori bowed with a contemplative expression, reflecting that a promise had been made to keep the duel a secret from those not involved, emphasizing the seriousness of the moment. Inori passionately declared that he was not a hero but an ordinary person whose presence had yet to be revealed to other nations. Inori, confidently dismissing the duel's seriousness, stated that it was merely a silly game. Reflecting on his past exploration of the dungeon's corridors and corners, the protagonist felt a nostalgic curiosity as the two guards entered silently. Our boy, flexing, appearing pleased with himself, displayed his cunning by showing off the coins spilling from his garment, having managed to acquire a small prize. The scene of opulence grew more striking as the gold coins and jewels spilled lavishly from bags at Inori's feet. The queen and the first princess both showed shock, clearly reacting with astonishment and surprise to the unexpected sight. Gold diggers alert, literally. Inori respectfully presented treasures from the first floor to the queen, explaining that he could not devise a plan to defeat the hero in the race, so he instead prepared a humble gift for the crown. Confidently displaying his power, Inori revealed that he had effortlessly located them using his blessing of detection. He declared that he had used the duel to prove his worth, as the scattered golden coins on the red surface reflected his determined resolve. Despite his defeated posture, he acknowledged that the troublesome hero had returned happily, signifying the case was finally closed. We shift to the ominous scene was intensified by a dark sky filled with silhouettes of flying birds. Revealing his bloodied arm with a smug smirk, Inori declared that he no longer needed to worry about being kicked out and had gained extra hunting time, celebrating his newfound freedom. Inori, kneeling in the forest with a frustrated expression, expressed his annoyance at repeatedly eating the same bird monster. Inori, standing in the forest with a frustrated expression, muttered that the forest constantly messes with his sense of direction, adding to his growing irritation. Inori continued to feel confused amid the dense forest, despite using his detection skills, yet he couldn't shake the unsettling sensation that something was amiss. He considered that perhaps employing a different skill might be the key to gaining an advantage. In an intense moment, Inori confidently revealed his demon eye, showcasing its unique ability to perceive beyond ordinary sight, as he unleashed his true sight. Realizing that his unfamiliar detection skill was possibly a new ability from this world, he understood why he had sensed something was off but couldn't identify it before. Inori, still contemplating his powers in the mysterious forest, recognized that the demon eye of vision was a skill from a different world. Observing the glowing-eyed wolves and contemplating the potential threats, Argai wondered aloud if there were fiends stronger than Kecho's lurking inside. Feeling cautious but determined, he decided that it might be worthwhile to take a peek before dawn, reasoning that he could always retreat with a teleportation spell if he encountered anything dangerous. Inori continued his ominous approach, his bloodied shirt highlighting his unwavering resolve. Inori remained resolute, as he confronted an unseen threat. Inori, seemingly overwhelmed, looked genuinely terrified as three ferocious wolves charged toward him. Inori was startled as he realized he was witnessing gray wolves moving in a pack for the first time, recognizing a new and formidable threat. He concentrated fiercely as he cast a dark, ethereal web-like energy, forming a sinister and ominous umbral web. Inori crouched on the ground, intensely focused as he harnessed dark energy to amplify his formidable power. Inori winced in pain, acknowledging his injuries while remaining resilient despite the visible wounds. We then see Inori, standing amidst the defeated enemies, reflected that handling just one would have been challenging enough, but with an entire team, he realized there was no way he could have won without getting hurt. Inori smirked confidently in the shadowy forest, internally acknowledging that he would gain more experience points than Kecho's, and he prepared himself eagerly for the upcoming challenge. Inori remains quietly contemplative by the water, as he gazes up the big tree. Feeling a growing sense of danger, Inori gazes into the dark forest, became increasingly apprehensive, suspecting that a boss might suddenly appear. He dismissed the danger with a wry smile, joking that it wasn't like he was in a video game or anything. Just as Inori was about to leave, suddenly a giant wolf charged forward. Inori, caught off guard as a loud crunch sound was heard shocking him. Inori's eyes widened as he saw his entire arm being obliterated with just one bite. Inori, visibly startled with blood on his face and a look of confusion, reacted in disbelief to the shocking revelation that confronted him amidst the intense atmosphere. Inori, desperate and terrified, struggled on the ground while crying out in fear amid the tense atmosphere. Inori, wounded and bewildered from his previous struggle, reacted with shock and confusion, loudly questioning what had just happened. We are then introduced to Fenrir, the majestic white wolf, as it stood imposingly beside the reflective pool, unveiling his mythical presence. Inori, bloodied and deep in thought as he leaned against a tree, was confused about the creature's true nature, questioning whether it was a mythical beast or something more sinister. He observed thoughtfully as Fenrir, the mystical and fierce creature, appeared to be presenting a threat, seemingly emerging as higher than a mini-boss. He hesitated, contemplating the risky move of running through his shadow, wary that it might catch on and set an ambush at the other end. Just then he shouted that the creature was so quick as it lunged with its huge open mouth. Fierce Fenrir lunged forward, forcing him to narrowly escape the attack while feeling overwhelmed by fear. Inori continued his triumphant flight into the night sky, his bat-like wings cutting through the luminous glow of the full moon. He acknowledged that he would not be able to avoid using his vampiric ability anytime soon and reflected that he was more wrong than he had thought. Fenrir, fierce and imposing, confronted our boy with an aggressive tone, demanding to know why they had come there. Inori, captivated by the mystical phenomenon, expressed his surprise that it could talk, remarking that a mythical beast truly was something special. He explained that his answer was because he had gotten lost in the woods, standing on the cliff with wings. Fenrir snarled angrily and accused that Inori had breached the illusion spell and entered this domain directly. Inori, looking surprised, expressed his curiosity about what was inside, noting that people usually cast illusion spells to protect something special. Fenrir, furious and vengeful, declared that the intruder had trespassed and killed his kin, warning that he would not let them leave this domain alive. Inori noted that as he kept talking, he became increasingly convinced that this place held significant importance. Fenrir declared that they had formed a covenant with the witch on these grounds. Inori, looking confused, questioned the presence of the witch, sensing her as a dangerous unknown threat maybe in the future. Wolf explained they made a solemn promise to safeguard them according to her vow. Fenrir, a fierce and menacing wolf-like creature, threatened his victim with a lethal ultimatum, warning that remaining still would result in death without torment, but resisting would lead to the destruction of their left arm. Just then Inori, with a surprised expression, marveled at his unexpected and powerful vampiric regeneration, realizing it was even stronger than he had initially thought. Wolf observed that our boy was no ordinary human, which gave him yet another reason to threaten Inori with its menacing aura. Fenrir, fierce and aggressive, lunged toward Inori with a threatening roar, vowing to crush him here and now. Inori, visibly caught off guard, shouted in frustration as he struggled against an unseen force. Fenrir unleashed a mighty attack that struck the ground with immense force, creating a dramatic impact. Inori, with his determined and strategic demeanor, focused intensely on the battlefield, revealing his red glowing demon eye of vision, which allowed him to read his opponent's attacks, though he recognized that escaping this fight would not be easy. Inori quickly took flight and flew away from the intense wolf. Realizing his limited flying ability, Inori resolved to keep his current pace and bide his time until the right opportunity to escape through the forest below arose. Inori's intense gaze reflected his shock as he reacted to a sudden, startling realization. We then see a surge of light and energy burst forward, signifying a fierce and unstoppable attack being unleashed. Inori, injured yet resolute, was falling dramatically with a desperate focus, trying to defend himself amidst the tense chaos. Imposing figure of Fenrir with shards radiating from its body, stood fiercely, unleashing an overwhelming supernatural presence that heightened the ominous atmosphere. Inori grimaced in pain as a shadowy weapon pierced his side. Inori, terrified but resolute, managed to evade the ferocious monster that lunged at him, leaving the scene charged with peril and immediacy. Inori, visibly strained and injured, desperately searched for an opening to use his hypnosis magic but felt overwhelmed by Fenrir's aggressive stance, leaving him frustrated and uncertain of his next move. Inori, feeling alarmed and exposed in the forest, exclaimed in frustration that there were no trees to cover him. Inori, determined yet pained, was struggling fiercely against the overwhelming blue energy shards that surrounded him, crying out in pain. Inori, overwhelmed and desperate, cried out in fear as Fenrir, the fierce and predatory wolf, lunged toward him with relentless aggression. Inori, lying on the ground with an intense and determined expression as he concentrated his mystical energy. Inori, injured yet desperate, unleashed many large towering spikes, fighting against overwhelming odds with a resolute sense of despair. Fenrir, furious and menacing, lunged forward dodging the attack just by a hair's inch. Fenrir, snarling in surprise and alarmed, confronted our boy asking what that was. Realizing the imminent threat, he confidently declared that he was glad he had stored the wooden stakes in his shadow dimension just in case, as he emerged from the shadows with a determined expression, ready to confront the danger. Inori smirked with a pained yet determined expression as he proclaimed that he was not yet out of the woods. Inori, looking determined and anxious, deeply contemplated escaping with his teleportation skill, expressing a desperate wish to run away. However, Inori, standing confidently before the ominously suspended creature, revealed that his demon eye of magic circles was currently loaded with hypnosis magic. Inori, determined to alter the magic's effect, explained that he needed to load a different magic circle into it to achieve the desired change. Inori, determined and focused, extended his hand as dark shadows crept toward him, resolutely attempting to buy some time using his dark powers. Inori, determined and focused, was concentrating on manipulating his ethereal blades while mentally noting that he was trying to see if he could find an opening. Swirling energy around him intensified as he pushed his focus further, signaling that he was channeling his power with unwavering resolve. Fenrir, the fierce wolf with glowing blue eyes, continued his charge with unwavering determination, making it clear that this was his next move. Inori, determined yet frustrated, was striking in vain as he struggled against his formidable opponent's defense that was blocking all of his attacks. Fenrir dismissed the weak attack with amused disdain, asserting that it was futile and claiming that such efforts could not harm him. In a burst of swift motion, a powerful strike is executed, highlighting the scene's dynamic energy and intense action. Inori swung his weapon with fierce determination amidst a flurry of energy, his furious resolve fueling the intense battle scene. He declared that he did not need to dodge everything, only to protect his legs for running and his heart to stay alive, embodying his defiant and resolute determination. The fierce-looking wolf with glowing blue eyes displayed an intense expression, recognizing Inori's tenacity and resilience. Inori, determined and focused, reached out as purple energy beams formed an intense web around him, casting a powerful spell. The scene intensifies as an unseen force presses against the wooden structures held together by ropes, deepening the suspense and uncertainty. Terrified and desperate, the wolf shouted in pain as, fierce and menacing, as Inori managed to trap the wolf. Inori was channeling his energy with eager focus, signaling that this was the perfect time to execute his plan. Fenrir's fierce roar echoed through the vibrant, enchanted atmosphere as he challenged that his strength was beyond a fragile web's reach. Inori, shown in a moment of intense shock amid the dark trees, was startled as he realized he had broken free. Inori, appearing distressed and anxious as he contemplated a difficult decision, finally resolved that he now had no choice but to use that method. Inori ran away from the ferocious creature, with unwavering resolve. Inori, depicted in a tense and dynamic pose with an intense expression, desperately pleaded that this had to work. Inori continued to ascend confidently through the night sky, heading toward the luminous moon, embodying his unwavering determination. Fenrir, furious and determined, charged through the forest with a powerful glow, declaring that it was foolish to retreat into the sky. Inori, injured but determined and anxious, was defensively positioned facing incoming attacks as Fenrir warned that he had turned himself into an open target. Inori, focused and determined, activated his unique ability, causing a radiant golden light to emit from his eye as he harnessed his hidden power. Inori continued to run desperately to escape Fenrir's ferocious lunge. Inori, determined and confident, prepared to unleash his magic, proclaiming that the demon eye of magic circles was locked and reloaded. Inori, prepared to teleport within the glowing demon eye of magic circles, signaling that he was about to activate his teleportation spell. Fenrir, with anger flashing in his glowing blue eyes, challenged Inori, demanding to know if its blurred form was fleeing from him. Inori, smirking playfully and looking sideways while contemplating leaving, decided it would not be kind to depart just yet. Inori grinned wickedly with glowing eyes, declaring that he wouldn't proceed without saying goodbye, his malicious expression heightening the foreboding atmosphere. Inori's fierce determination drove him to execute a decisive strike, catching the shadowy wolf off guard and leaving Fenrir visibly surprised and vulnerable to the attack. Fenrir cried out in anguish as he lost his line of sight. Inori, conflicted yet determined, smirked confidently as he revealed his complex emotional state, expressing his frustration about being solely on the receiving end. The furious, injured wolf let out a savage howl of rage, condemning the attack in a loud, ferocious voice. Inori, smirking confidently, teased that he had successfully provoked a fierce reaction from the dog, amused by the confrontation. Inori, surprised and curious, questioned whether the mystical wolf was looking at him, as Fenrir, the intimidating and powerful creature, approached him with an enigmatic presence. Realizing the wolf's nose was tracking him, he shouted in surprise that it was sensing him directly. Inori, wearing a slight grin despite beads of sweat on his forehead, acknowledged the danger with a tense remark that the wolf was hell-bent on killing him. Inori, with a calm yet resolute expression, announced that it was time for him to leave as he prepared to depart in the ominous, dark atmosphere. Fenrir, wounded and desperate, realized he escaped while the ominous magical object hovered silently overhead. In his room, Inori, appearing exhausted and regretful while reflecting on his struggles, acknowledged that the best he could do was to hurt it. He declared that he would win next time. Since that day, Inori reflecting on his past decisions while examining a wall of weapons, the scene depicts him thoughtfully adjusting his strategies after that pivotal moment. Inori, stealthily observing from a dark space, reported that he had infiltrated Armory 5 first. Inori, holding his sword and radiating determination, searched the interior for metals and useful items he could gather as materials. He explained that he had examined Fenrir's fur, which he had collected as a backup. The scene conveys that after examining Fenrir's fur, it was quite difficult. Inori continued to examine Fenrir's fur with a focused and curious expression, realizing that it hardened in response to mana, which revealed its magical properties. He concluded that his attacks had failed because the creature's fur was covered in such dense and resilient material. Inori, appearing determined and focused, prepared to forge a weapon using glowing materials, feeling confident that he could create something powerful, announced that he would now see what weapon he could make out of these. A mysterious energy pulse radiated from Gleipnir, unleashing a hidden force that intensified the ominous atmosphere. Inori remained focused as he demonstrated his magical ability, revealing that a spell crystallizes when infused with mana. Inori carefully examined the glowing string, recalling that in Norse mythology, Gleipnir was a restraint designed to hold Fenrir, and he thought that such a creature shouldn't be able to break it. Inori, feeling curious and determined, examined the glowing object in his hand and contemplated whether he could use it to create something else. A hand wearing the glove of utter darkness, made from black silk woven with Gleipnir and capable of activating traits through mana such as dark hardening and crystallization, emitted a glowing aura, revealing the powerful artifact's mysterious nature. Inori confidently demonstrated his magical ability by holding up his glowing hand, which now revealed a clear magic circle thanks to his tweak of the crystallization trait to make only a part of it glow. Inori, still deep in thought, wondered if he could complete the set he was aiming for. Cut to our boy now dripped down in the most badasses of the suits. Inori, exuding a menacing aura surrounded by dark energy, declared that it was now the time for revenge. We then see a mystical energy burst erupts from the ground, enveloped by swirling winds, signaling the unleashing of a formidable attack. Fenrir, channeling his fierce energy and glowing with a radiant aura, noticed this. Inori, standing confidently amidst glowing flames, greeted challengingly with a smug expression, asserting his bold presence. Inori smirked confidently while standing amidst the chaotic surroundings and mockingly asked if the big bad wolf had a good night's sleep. Fenrir, exhibiting his formidable power with a threatening pose, declared that it was a bold move of the opponent to challenge him so directly. Fenrir, furious and roaring, warned that no one would set foot on this land again, his threatening stance intensifying the ominous atmosphere. Inori, with a mischievous smile, playfully remarked that Fenrir looked cooler without her pupils, adding a playful tone. Fenrir shouted for silence as he unleashed a powerful wave of energy toward our boy, leaving Inori shocked and defensively reacting to the attack. Inori wondered aloud how someone could be so precise even while blind. Fenrir snarled with intense fury, declaring that twice Inori had trespassed on its domain and warning that he would destroy him permanently this time. Inori challenged the fierce response to his intrusion, questioning whether the wolf was more angry about him entering without permission, and he remarked that it was a dedicated wolf. Inori, filled with joy and passion, expressed his admiration for the devotion he was witnessing, revealing his enthusiastic and heartfelt appreciation. Inori's fierce and determined eye revealed his fiery vow to eliminate his enemy, emphasizing his unwavering resolve. Fenrir's ferocious lunge with an intense expression underscored his aggressive assault amid the ominous atmosphere. Inori remains poised as shadowy wolves materialize behind him, demonstrating his confident mastery over the mysterious creatures. Fierce wolf suddenly appeared, lunging forward with a fierce expression and baring its teeth in an aggressive attack. Fenrir, facing the fierce and aggressive creature that was attacking with raw power and causing a terrifying crunching sound, shouted in horror, asking what these creatures were. Inori, smirking, challenged the wolf by asking him to smell the creatures, implying he believed they could identify them through their scent. Inori declared that he was sure they still had the scent of his kin. Fenrir, furious and protective, snarled at Inori with a fierce expression, accusing him of harming his kin and demanding to know what they had done. Feeling proud, Inori confidently gestured and revealed that he had turned the dark familiars, which seemed quite useful, into his loyal companions. Fenrir, overwhelmed by his intense emotions and a sense of desperation, charged forward with a fierce and aggressive motion. Inori reacted with shock, his eyes wide, displaying his determination and alertness in the face of the wolf's speed. Fenrir, fierce and determined, unleashed a powerful attack that shattered the surrounding environment, echoing the intensity of his resolve. Inori confidently declared that his outfit might not be damage-proof but would buy him some time. Inori, determined yet vulnerable, was struck by Fenrir's ferocious attack, crying out in pain as he took the devastating hit. Inori blocked a powerful strike from the beast lunging toward him with intense focus. Inori leans against a tree, shrouded in a purple aura as he seems defeated. Fenrir, filled with fury and determined to avenge his kin, faced Inori with unwavering resolve, declaring his intention to seek vengeance. Inori, confident and smug as he prepared to teleport, activated his power. Fenrir clenched his teeth as he continued to chase the elusive protagonist, feeling frustrated as he once again managed to escape. He shouted that the opponent was above him, as Inori hovered confidently in the darkening sky, embodying his ascending power while Fenrir watched in anger. Inori maintained his confident ascent, glowing with a radiant celestial aura as Fenrir, fierce and hostile, launched ominously in the darkening sky. Inori confidently declared that he was not running away, but was instead asserting his true strength with glowing eyes. Blue creature, fueled by its fierce determination, failed to notice the purple string that tangled him up. Fenrir, alarmed and worried, wondered how he had failed to detect their scent. Inori stood confidently amidst the bright, crisscrossing lights, demonstrating his control with a focused and strategic demeanor. Fenrir roared in fury, demanding an explanation for what had been done. "I guess this is GG's for our wolf." Inori, standing confidently amidst glowing strands of string, declared that he had woven a string using the wolf's fur and asserted that escape was no longer possible.